George Berkeley's extraordinary life is a testament to the profound impact of human perception on our understanding of reality. His groundbreaking ideas, which suggested that our experiences are purely a product of our minds, continue to influence psychological thought to this day. Get ready to enter a world where the lines between reality and illusion blur, and the boundaries of human consciousness are pushed to their limits. Born on March 12, 1685, in Dysart Castle, near Thomastown County, Kilkenny, Ireland, Berkeley was the eldest son of William Berkeley, a gentleman farmer, and Elizabeth Southern. His childhood was marked by a strong emphasis on education, with his family encouraging his intellectual pursuits from an early age. Berkeley's father, although not a scholar himself, recognized the importance of learning and ensured that his son had access to the best educational resources available. Berkeley's educational journey began at Kilkenny College, where he excelled in his studies, particularly in languages and philosophy. In 1700, he enrolled in Trinity College, Dublin, which would become a pivotal institution in his development as a thinker. It was during his time at Trinity College that Berkeley was exposed to the works of prominent philosophers, including John Locke and René Descartes, whose ideas would later influence his own thoughts on perception and reality. One of Berkeley's most significant mentors during this period was Edward Synge, the Bishop of Elphin, who recognized the young man's intellectual potential and encouraged him to pursue a career in academia. Under Synge's guidance, Berkeley began to develop his unique philosophical perspective, which would eventually lead him to challenge the dominant views of his time. As my colleagues in the field often note, the influence of mentors can be instrumental in shaping a person's intellectual trajectory, and Berkeley's relationship with Synge is a prime example of this. As Berkeley navigated his educational journey, he became increasingly fascinated with the nature of perception and reality. He began to question the notion that our experiences are a direct reflection of an objective world, instead proposing that our understanding of reality is filtered through our individual perceptions. This idea, which would become a cornerstone of his philosophical theory, was revolutionary for its time and sparked intense debate among his contemporaries. Berkeley's most famous work, a treatise concerning the principles of human knowledge, published in 1710, outlines his theory of immaterialism, which posits that physical objects do not exist independently of our perceptions. According to Berkeley, when we perceive an object, it is not the object itself that we experience, but rather our own mental representation of it. This idea may seem radical, but as I've observed in my experience with clients, it's surprising how often our perceptions can shape our understanding of reality. To illustrate this concept, consider a simple example. Imagine walking into a room and seeing a chair. Your brain processes the visual information and creates a mental representation of the chair, which you then perceive as a physical object. However, Berkeley would argue that the chair itself does not exist independently of your perception. Instead, it is your mind that creates the experience of the chair. This idea has profound implications for our understanding of reality and challenges us to reconsider the nature of our experiences. As Berkeley's philosophical ideas continued to evolve, he became increasingly fascinated with the concept of perception and its relationship to reality. His theory of immaterialism, outlined in A Treatise Concerning the Principles of Human Knowledge, sparked intense debate among his contemporaries, with some hailing him as a visionary and others dismissing his ideas as radical and unorthodox. One of the most significant criticisms of Berkeley's theory came from the philosopher Samuel Johnson, who argued that if physical objects do not exist independently of our perceptions, then how can we explain the existence of objects when they are not being perceived? Berkeley's response to this criticism was to propose that God plays an active role in sustaining the existence of objects, even when they are not being perceived by humans. According to Berkeley, God's perception of the world is what maintains its existence, and our own perceptions are merely a reflection of God's perception. This idea may seem surprising to modern readers, but it highlights the deeply religious context in which Berkeley was writing. As my colleagues in the field often note, the historical context of a philosopher's work can greatly influence their ideas, and Berkeley's theory of immaterialism is no exception. Berkeley's relationships with his contemporaries were complex and multifaceted. He was heavily influenced by the works of John Locke and René Descartes, but he also engaged in lively debates with other philosophers such as David Hume and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. One notable example of Berkeley's engagement with his contemporaries is his correspondence with the philosopher Jonathan Edwards, who shared Berkeley's interest in the nature of perception and reality. Their exchange of letters provides valuable insights into the development of Berkeley's thought and highlights the intense intellectual curiosity that characterized his approach to philosophy. As Berkeley continued to develop his philosophical ideas, he became increasingly interested in the practical applications of his theory. He believed that his immaterialism could provide a new perspective on the nature of reality, one that would allow us to better understand the world and our place within it. To illustrate this idea, consider the example of a person who is experiencing a vivid dream. In the dream, they may perceive a world that is entirely different from the physical world they experience in their waking life. According to Berkeley, the dream world is just as real as the physical world, because both are creations of the mind. This idea challenges us to reconsider our understanding of reality and highlights the complex relationship between perception and existence. Berkeley's work also had significant implications for the field of psychology, particularly in the area of perception and cognition. His theory of immaterialism suggests that our perceptions are not direct reflections of an objective world, but rather constructions of the mind. This idea has been influential in the development of modern psychological theories, such as social constructivism and cognitive psychology. As I've observed in my experience with clients, the way we perceive the world can greatly influence our understanding of reality, and Berkeley's theory provides a valuable framework for exploring this complex relationship. His theory of immaterialism sparked a wave of debate among philosophers, with some hailing him as a visionary and others dismissing his ideas as radical and unorthodox. One notable example of this debate was his exchange with the philosopher Arthur Collier, who argued that Berkeley's theory led to a form of solipsism, where the only reality is one's own mind. Berkeley responded to this criticism by arguing that his theory did not preclude the existence of other minds, but rather emphasized the role of God in sustaining the existence of objects and the perceptions of other beings. This idea highlights the deeply theological context in which Berkeley was writing, and demonstrates the complex interplay between philosophy, theology, and science during this period. Despite these criticisms, Berkeley's theory of immaterialism had a profound impact on the development of modern philosophy, particularly in the areas of epistemology and metaphysics. His ideas influenced thinkers such as David Hume and Immanuel Kant, who built upon his work to develop their own theories of perception and reality. For example, Hume's concept of bundles of perceptions owes a debt to Berkeley's idea that objects are merely collections of perceptions. One notable example of Berkeley's engagement with his contemporaries is his correspondence with the philosopher and scientist Isaac Newton. Although their exchange was limited, it highlights the intersection of philosophy and science during this period and demonstrates the ways in which thinkers from different disciplines were grappling with similar questions about the nature of reality. It also raises important questions about the nature of mental health and the role of perception in shaping our experiences. For example, the concept of cognitive distortion owes a debt to Berkeley's idea that our perceptions can shape our understanding of reality. He began to explore how our understanding of the world is shaped by the words we use to describe it, and how this, in turn, influences our perceptions. This line of inquiry led him to develop his theory of linguistic idealism, which posits that language plays a fundamental role in shaping our reality. Berkeley's work on linguistic idealism was heavily influenced by his contemporaries, particularly the philosopher and linguist Étienne Bonnot de Condillac. Condillac's work on the origin of language and its relationship to thought had a profound impact on Berkeley, who saw it as a way to further develop his own ideas about perception and reality. The two philosophers engaged in a series of lively debates and discussions, with Condillac pushing Berkeley to consider the implications of his theories on the nature of language and reality. One of the key areas where Berkeley's linguistic idealism had a significant impact was in the field of epistemology. He argued that our understanding of the world is always filtered through language, and that this filtering process shapes our perceptions and beliefs about reality. This idea has important implications for how we think about knowledge and truth, as it suggests that our understanding of the world is always subject to the limitations and biases of language. To illustrate this point, consider the example of a person who has never seen a color before. This is because language is limited in its ability to capture the nuances of sensory experience, and our descriptions will always be incomplete and imperfect. Berkeley would argue that this limitation is not just a matter of linguistic inadequacy, but rather a fundamental aspect of how we perceive and understand the world. Berkeley's work on linguistic idealism also had significant implications for his views on the nature of reality. He argued that reality is not an objective fact, independent of our perceptions, but rather a construct of our language and cognitive faculties. This idea has been influential in the development of various philosophical and psychological theories, including social constructivism and cognitive linguistics. Despite the significance of Berkeley's ideas, they were not without controversy. Many of his contemporaries, including the philosopher and scientist Isaac Newton, criticized his views on linguistic idealism as being too narrow and limited. Newton argued that Berkeley's emphasis on language and perception overlooked the importance of empirical observation and scientific inquiry in understanding the natural world. Berkeley responded to these criticisms by arguing that his theories were not meant to replace empirical observation, but rather to complement it. He believed that a full understanding of reality required both empirical investigation and philosophical reflection on the nature of perception and language. This debate between Berkeley and Newton reflects a deeper tension between two different approaches to understanding the world, one that emphasizes the importance of empirical observation and scientific inquiry, and another that highlights the role of language and perception in shaping our understanding of reality. In conclusion, George Berkeley's profound impact on the field of psychology is a testament to the enduring power of his ideas, which continue to shape our understanding of perception, reality, and the human experience. Berkeley's philosophy challenges us to consider the intricate dance between our senses, language, and cognition, and to recognize the profound implications this has for our understanding of reality. As he so eloquently put it, "The eye sees only what the mind is prepared to comprehend." These words serve as a poignant reminder of the complex interplay between our inner and outer worlds, and invite us to embark on a journey of self-discovery and exploration. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.